Hey, happy Monday, everybody. That might be one of the last weeks that we have that intro going on.
I don't know. I'm not getting my hopes up,
man. we officially, I think, is it since the last show, actually shot the intro, or did we do that 2 weekends ago?
No, we did 2 weekends.
We did 2 weekends ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the progress on that is we have picked new music.
We have. I really like that music, actually.
Yeah. So super excited about that. New video, new music coming whenever the amazing Rosses can get that cut up for us and put together. It'll be awesome. But yeah, episode 50.
50.
Welcome, Gluten-Free Brian. Gluten-Free Brew Supply. Thanks for joining us, man.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me on.
I'm actually starting the night drinking one of the yeast samples that you were so kind enough to legally mail us. So,
right?
You want to talk
yeast
about
samples.
Yeah. This is you have it labeled as a Michigan Pale Ale. Do you want to talk about like what it is and
sure.
I think Jason has one too, and
yeah. Okay, so the that Michigan Pale Ale, it's made with Hydra hops, which is one of the 6 or 7 proprietary Michigan hops available from Hang High Hops, who is their hop supplier that I'm working with, and like I'm slowly going through each hop, just doing a single hop beer with them, just to figure out each hop. I'm loving this one, the Hydra. All of these Michigan hops are they're different and unique. This one I think almost tastes like kind of like a mimosa to me. And then there's Emerald Spire that's got a bunch of grape flavors, almost kind of like a grape Jolly Rancher type thing going on. This is the first beer I've made with the Hydra, so it was just kind of my standard pale ale hop schedule, which is I do half ounce at 60, 2 ounces at 10 minutes, and 2 ounces in the whirlpool.
Okay.
What are you doing?
Now,
I'm live, dude. Okay. My technical director here is like checking out my advanced setup, making sure everything's tuned in right.
Excellent.
That's a great setup. No, I like the hazy. Is so. As far as like brewing gluten-free goes, and we'll start going into like a lot of the details. You sent us like samples of like millet and oat malt and stuff like that. But as far as like brewing a hazy IPA with gluten-free supplies, like what do you do for like proteins and stuff like that? Because normally for like hazy IPAs, you're kind of looking for like a sort of protein heavy beer to sort of bind those hot polyphenols and stuff, and it looks great. Like it's beautiful.
So with celiac, now some people are celiac and are very sensitive to oats, and oats are commonly cross-contaminated either in the field or in the handling. So I've been able to supply malted oats that come from a dedicated farm, and then it goes to Haas Malts in Ohio, and they do a very thorough cleaning of all their equipment that it's going to go through. They malt the oats, and they're doing. So they have a pail, and then they do kind of like a 10L oats, and now they've got a 45L oats, which I'm driving down there tomorrow to pick up. I use oats for the haze and that protein. Buckwheat has a lot of protein in it, and this beer has both in it. It's got dextrin buckwheat, oats, C10 millet, and the red sorghum malt. Another place you can get oats, or not oats, another place you can get proteins is quinoa.
Oh, okay.
And there's, yeah, that's like you get flaked quinoa, which will really help with some of the body and mouth feel.
Nice.
For me, the magic number seems to be some oats, some buckwheat, and a good dry hop to really help, with that head retention and haze.
That's awesome.
But like the example you have didn't even dry hop.
I feel like we jumped forward a little bit, so I want to circle back just in case.
That's me. That's me. Yeah.
I know. I'm calling you out on it. So Brian, can you? Why? I guess the first question would be like, why gluten-free? If you can kind of explain like why somebody might want to focus on gluten-free beer. I know you mentioned celiac, but if you can give us the rundown on that, that would be awesome.
Right. So I have celiac. I was actually first diagnosed when I was like a year and a half old. Celiac it's a genetic disease where my immune system freaks out when it sees gluten, and my immune system attacks my body, specifically my small intestine. So you have symptoms like pain, gas, diarrhea. It inflames the villi and the intestines with these little finger-like projections that absorb nutrients. So they get all swollen, and then they're like this, and it absorbs nothing. My mom told me that it looked like one of those little Ethiopian kids on those commercials. And I mean, it's a protuberant belly, malnourishment, failure to thrive. I mean, I was like really, really sick until some doctor figured it out. It was like, oh, stop giving him this, and this. And all of a sudden, I stopped having diarrhea. I started gaining weight, and I, began to grow and, be more like a normal baby. And then about a year or two after that, the doctor said, oh, this goes into remission, or it goes away, they grow out of it. Not true, but that's what they thought. I was fine until I turned 12, and then the symptoms came back, and so I've been gluten-free since 1989 or so. But I mean, a lot of people end up being diagnosed in their 30s or 40s, and a lot of times it's just a missed diagnosis because until the last 10 years, it's been not unknown, but a very little known, disease. And, so people are just sick, or, like doctors never pick up on it. Fortunately now there's a lot more awareness, and there's more options now. I mean, and there's the other sort of aspect of gluten-free, which is gluten intolerance or non-celiac gluten intolerance, where basically they have symptoms, but the lab tests do not show celiac. I mean, those people are basically just as sensitive as a celiac is. You have celiac or gluten intolerance, you have to just absolutely eliminate the gluten-containing grains from your diet, and those are wheat, rye, and barley. And then whatever the hybrids and the offshoots of those. And you have to be very careful of things like cross-contamination. So, I can't go to whatchamacallit, Domino's and get a gluten-free pizza because it's probably going to be contaminated with their, flour from their kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
There are restaurants that do it safely, like Buddy's. They're safe and freaking awesome because they have a dedicated space for it and dedicated
We
oven.
love Buddies, yeah. That's awesome to hear.
Buddy's is awesome. Their pizza, their gluten-free is so good that they brought it out to me one time, and I started freaking out because I thought it was a gluten pizza. And I was like, they brought the manager out. I was like, no, I promise you, that's the right one. We adjusted the recipe. I was like, oh my god, this is too good to be gluten-free.
So,
but I mean, that's the thing. Is I get so sick that if I even think there's contamination, I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna eat that.
Right.
Yeah.
So you were saying you knew from like you said 12, I think. So is that confirmed? Like,
yeah,
through your teens, you didn't eat any gluten, or you avoided gluten as you could. So my question is there. Then how did you get into beer?
Yeah.
I mean,
well, my first experience with gluten-free beer or with beer at all was the night before my wedding. We had found some gluten-free beer somewhere. I think it was Redbridge. It tasted like fucking shit. And I was like, yeah, no, I don't like beer. So 10 years later, I tried beer again, gluten-free beer. It's like, oh, this isn't bad. It's because I was tired of cider. I mean, cider, yeah, you can do 1,000 different fruits with it, but it gets boring. And then I started being like, I'm gonna hunt down every gluten-free beer I can find. And in Michigan, especially, there wasn't much. There was very little. There was, say, Redbridge, New Grist, and Greens, and that was it. And Greens is horribly expensive. It's imported from Belgium. It's pretty good. It's not. I make better beer. Or at least mine's fresh, so it still tastes good. It comes in from Belgium. Who knows how stale it is? And I was like, I want to try a porter. So I started looking into it, and I found Zero Tolerance Gluten-Free Homebrew Club on Facebook. And it's like, oh my god, I can make a stout or a porter. This is fucking cool. So I kind of and it was just down the rabbit hole ever since then. That in the frame.
Awesome.
It's a great group. And then, so I was able to buy kits and ingredients from Gluten-Free Homebrewing, which is until I came along, the only gluten-free homebrew store in the country, and they do mail order. I did a couple of kits. I was like, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna go. I'm all in. I'm just buying pounds of grain and making my own recipes, and then I start hunting around. I want to try and find, what else is out there. And then I found Haas, and I found the oats that they have, and I started playing with that and finding. And then more recently, Skagit Valley out in Oregon came out with. They're doing some millets and some buckwheats. And, so it's I'm just 100% all in, and I was like, yeah, just open up my own store.
A good way to start.
How did you become involved with becoming their brand ambassador? What'd you say the brewery was again? It was
So it's Groundbreaker Brewing out of Oregon.
Groundbreaker.
Okay. So a couple of years ago, I actually started a Facebook group for trading gluten-free beer because it's so hard to find. And at the time there was a dozen or so breweries around the country that made gluten-free beer, and I was like, we need to be able to trade this shit. I can find this one, you find that one, you trade around. I want to try more. And through that, I got some Groundbreaker beer, and I tasted a couple, wrote some reviews. The owner and a couple of his brewers are in the zero tolerance group. It was like they saw my reviews and we started talking about brewing and all of this, and then they're like, "We want to come into Michigan. Can you help?" I was like,
"Oh,
yeah."
Sweet."
Right. So through some other friends, I had a contact at Imperial Beverage and got James Newmeister in contact with Imperial, and a year and a half later, they're in the state.
Awesome. Where how many stores are they sold around, or are they on tap anywhere, or how does that work? Because I can't imagine if they're on tap somewhere, they might have issues with cross contamination too, right? Maybe, or
exactly.
Cleaning, or okay.
They're not on tap anywhere in Michigan that I know of. They have very specific protocols if you are going to go on tap. It's honestly better just to go the cans. Depending on your location, it could be something that moves kind of in a little bit too slow to be on tap, and there's just contamination issues. I feel a lot more comfortable with someone just bringing me a can from the brewery and I put it in my glass. That way it's like I see that this is the product I asked for. I mean, you bring me a glass of beer, it's like kind of like that pizza. It's like, okay, this pizza's too good to be gluten-free. And then you're freaking out. At least if they bring you the can, it's like, oh, it says indicated certified gluten-free. I can read the ingredient. And I mean, because I talked to Sedona Tap House about it, and they asked me about buying kegs. I kind of told them the same thing. I'm like, as a celiac, I would rather you bring me a can. And I mean, their beer comes out of a can fantastic. I don't really think that it's going to get anything, it's not going to be better enough off, on tap to make it worthwhile. Maybe if they come out with something like a nitro stout that you really can only do on tap, maybe that. But otherwise, for distribution, I would just go with cans or bottles and, keep it simple.
It's a market waiting to be tapped. Yeah. I mean, I guess speaking of that, since you've become involved with, becoming a brand ambassador, have you since seen around in Michigan, I don't know, like a gap that needs to be filled, like people are really bring on the gluten-free beer, we need that, what have you seen?
I mean, I do see a gap. Whenever I go out to eat, there's very few places that actually have gluten-free beer available. A lot of times I ask for a gluten-free beer and they're like, oh, we have a mission. And I'm like, no, that's gluten reduced. You cannot legally call it gluten-free according to the FEA and the DD. It's made with barley and it still contains gluten no matter what the fuck they try to tell you. And there's actually a research study done by gluten tolerance group. It was actually the lead scientist went on, was it Brew Lab, episode 14 is the celiac response to gluten in beer. And it breaks it down. It's like they've scientifically proven that gluten-reduced beer is not safe for celiac. And I mean, I can attest to that because I tried one and I got.
What is technically a gluten-reduced beer? Is is that something that they're adding to the beer post fermentation to try to drop out gluten or something like that? Or okay,
they add clarity firm to it, which was designed to break proteins to prevent chill haze. And then someone's like, oh look, it makes the test think that there's no gluten because it breaks down proteins. And it's like, yeah, but you can't actually use those tests on fermented hydrolyzed products. And beer is, it's hydrolyzed when you mash it, and then it's fermented. And there pretty much is no accepted way to, truly test how much gluten is remaining in beer that's been treated like that. And it's known that and even the manufacturers state, we can't actually tell you how much gluten is remaining in this beer. It's, like that star thing that you have to read the fine print on. But
yeah.
It, and it's like, would you give a vegan, meat reduced burger? It's like you can't just spray some shit on a burger on ground beef and it's not meat anymore. It's still fucking meat.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. I like only slightly switching topics. Like I'm like crushing this beer. And this was the Hydra that you made with those Hydra hops. And I'm digging it. I'm really loving that hop.
Right.
You're right. It sort of has like a really well, I don't remember what you said about the hop, this one specifically, but it's very like a grapefruity, citrusy.
Like a mimosa.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I get a lot of orange off of it, almost like a mimosa. Not quite mimosa. It's like most mimosa with hops or something, but
mimosa.
No, it's super fruity, super citrusy, really, just really delicious. Yeah.
And that's no dry hop.
Is this like a? You said there was no dry hop?
No dry hop in the bottles I sent you.
Awesome. Yeah, the aroma's like killer. It's definitely like way up there.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
and
I can't remember what I was just going to say.
One thing that impressed me is how I don't get any of that like green vegetal, like funkiness. It's just flavorful.
Yeah.
And I've used
it doesn't taste
quite a bit. Like in some of the other beers I made with Emerald Spire, I used quite a bit, and it's like still no vegetal.
And you probably get this a lot. And so I hate like saying it, like, it doesn't taste like a gluten-free beer. Like it, like everybody sort of, they probably have like these preconceived notions of what like gluten-free beer should taste like or something. And I can't wait to get to the commercial examples too, but
right.
It's fantastic. It's like any other beer I've had, so it's a very special episode. I'm digging it.
People always say, "Oh, this doesn't taste gluten-free," and I'm like, "Okay, well, what would a gluten taste like?" And 99% of the time, it's either thin, body or head retention, or they have this weird metal playing thing, and that's common in beers like Red Bridge, where it's 100% sorghum syrup. And honestly, Red Bridge is kind of like probably the shittiest gluten-free beer there is. If you don't use sorghum correctly, it gets this weird taste to it. And the sorghum syrup that like that white sorghum syrup you find in the homebrew store, it's not even malted. Breeze takes raw white sorghum, they mash it with enzymes, and they make this extract. It does make beer. You can make good beer with it. But it does have this weird taste to it.
Yeah.
Right. It's not the best beer. Like the one that you're drinking right now, I made it with malted red sorghum. And at malted red sorghum, I get zero twang. Zero of that sorghum-y flavor that makes stuff taste gluten-free. That people identify with gluten-free beers.
Right.
I want to get back to like you mentioned the enzymes and actually like the brewing process with sorghum and rice and malt and stuff. But Drew in our chat actually brought up a question that I thought was interesting that I didn't consider. He says, "Do you have to be careful about yeast sourcing too? is dry yeast safer? I
Yes.
know liquid often has some wort with it, which also contains gluten.
Right. So essentially, when you're making anything that's going to be gluten-free, including mead or cider, you need to stick with a dry yeast. There are a few gluten-free liquid yeasts available. I know, I think it was Imperial put out Bubbles a year or two ago. And,
I do remember that one.
that was like specifically for cider. Right, and that was on gluten-free medium. And then just recently they did one for seltzers, and that one's also on a gluten-free medium. I believe they use sorghum, which I mean is fine. I think there's Propagate Labs makes a few that they sell through gluten-free homebrewing, and then Bootleg Biology has one there. I think it's Oslo, their Kvike. You have the option of getting it on gluten-free. And I've talked to them about doing some of their other yeasts on a gluten-free medium, and it just really comes down to, can I sell 20 of this to make it, make it happen. And that can be a little harder than you might think in some regards. Probably something I'd look at more in the fall or winter, just because of shipping it and everything. Don't really want to ship it when it's 110 outside.
I know you can't see us or the chat right now, so Drew says thanks. So getting back to, and that is awesome info. Like I had never even considered that. Like I saw that Bubbles was, gluten-free, and it never occurred to me that it was the medium that they were talking about. I was like, I can make a regular beer with this. Like, what are they talking about? So, but so Jason and I kind of want to talk about brewing the gluten-free beer kit that you sent us, and I had the recipe somewhere and I totally lost it, but it was very much like brewing a normal beer, but it had a couple extra steps, and specifically you sent us 3 enzymes. You had us mash at different temperatures, and you sent us the different enzymes. Can you tell me like why there was all these different like mash temps that we were mashing at, and what all the different enzymes were potentially, and what was going on there?
Sure. So I sent you, it's Ceramit Flex on Diapro and Termamal. And so the gluten-free grains do not have sufficient endogenous enzymes to, fully convert the starches into sugars that, yeast can eat and turn into alcohol and CO2. So you have to turn to, lab-produced enzymes. The mash schedule I sent you is like 20 minutes at 125. So that's basically a protein rest. Which, I mean, I know a lot of barley brewers do the same. And so really the function is exactly the same as it is with barley beer. And the Ceramix has, like there's certain enzymes in there that help start breaking down cell walls. Or I think it's the Andia and the Ceramix. Because they're complexes of, different enzymes. And they're actually first developed for either like severely undermodified malts or just raw grain, like barley and stuff. Right. And then they found that they work really well with, the gluten-free grains.
Cool.
Then it was like a 145 or 155 step for about 45 minutes. And that's where like the Andean ceramics really start, doing their thing and breaking everything down, breaking down those cell walls, getting the starches available and starting to break them down into long chains. And then as you go up in temperature, you start really breaking down the long chains into the short chains, so that you can, get a good fermentation.
Sure.
Also,
Yeah.
the gluten-free grains have a much higher gelatinization temperature, like in the high 160s, I think, for the most part. And like the ceramics was kind of a game changer for us because it sort of lowers the gelatinization temperature of the grains through enzymes. I'm not enough of a scientist to understand exactly how it does it,
Yeah.
but it works.
Yeah.
So we go with it.
Are those like
those two came
a standard set of? Oh, sorry. Are those like a standard set of enzymes that you use for like pretty much every brew? Is that like common in like the gluten-free like home brewing like community like those?
Yep. Those are they are sort of the new standard for the most part. We used to use the Tremamal, and then we would mash in at like 180 with Tremamal, and you would cool it down to like 145 and add Sabamal L, and there's like a Sabamal something S100, Sabamal Bal 100. I don't know, some other enzymes.
Yeah.
And when the Andia and ceramics came out, brewers were like, "Oh, I just went from like 80% efficiency to 110% efficiency on my mash." We're like, "Oh, look, we just unlocked a lot more fucking sugar." And they've actually had to like recalibrate basically what these grains, PPGs are because of these enzymes. So that's like just a huge step. And I mean, it's a huge money saver too, because you need like 20% less grain to make the same beer.
And I can't imagine that the grains that you're using
So how did your brew day
particularly cheap?
Oh no,
they're
very expensive.
No, the brew day went good. When you we'll take a step back. So when we were first discussing us brewing this beer, like I have a mill, and I was like, oh, I can mill my own grain, it's fine. But then you brought up 2 points. One, cross contamination again, because my grain is filthy, dirty with dust, and two, and I can tell, looking at all these different samples that you sent us, each of these probably has a completely different mill gap. And
yeah.
that wasn't something that I wanted to mess with. Yeah.
Wow.
So you milled all this for us, and I really appreciate that. And I can't even imagine the hell that you have to go through to do that. But yeah, did you include rice hulls with the stuff that you sent us too?
That recipe uses oats, and those malted oats have the hulls on them.
That's what it was.
So that's what you call there. That right. You thought it was rice hulls. It's actually oat hulls, which are a little bit thicker than rice hulls, and they make an excellent filter bed.
Yeah, now that I see the sample of the oat that you sent us, I get it. But yeah, I mean, when it was ground up, I was like, oh man, it looks like there's rice hulls. But definitely this grain, has a similar hull texture. So I'm gonna break into this. What was it called again? Ghost in the Fog was the one that we brewed.
Yeah, Ghost in the Fog, hazy IPA.
And that really did live up to its name. Like, let me show the camera. I mean, yeah, really, really solid, haze color, nice orange. Still has a good head. What did we use? I'm drawing a blank. I don't have the recipe in front of me, Brian. What were the hops on these?
For sure it was Centennial and Citra, but I don't remember the third.
It was Centennial. Oh my god. Now I can't remember off the top of my head. Eldorado and Amarillo, I think.
Okay. I was thinking there was Citra. Okay.
Oh, it was Citra. Citra, not Eldorado. Citra.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, it's just
too many hot tables floating around in my brain right now.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Excuse me. No, I don't really think we ran into any issues. So it was a longer brew day because of the step mashing that I mentioned and you discussed. No stuck sparge because of the oat hulls, which was nice. Jason has a nice setup that allows for recirculating wort and stuff like that. So our efficiency was lower than expected, but still not bad. Did you happen to take a final gravity on this, Jason?
I did not.
That's okay.
So that's like the one step that I miss on all of our brews, but I really feel like it dropped right down. And if I remember right, Brian, from your conversation in Messenger, I think you normally expect this to hit in like the 1007 range. So
but right about 1004.
Oh, 1004 even. Okay. Yeah, I feel like it dried right out. I mean, it's still, it got a juicy mouthfeel.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, so with our numbers, what was it? This should have been like a 5.5, maybe a little bit higher.
Yeah, what I say we hit.
It's right about the target for it is about a 5.5%.
Yeah.
I think the target's like 1045 or something for the OG.
Maybe we hit 40 then. I know we were something like 4 points, 5 points off or something, but
yeah, we're just a little bit low. But it was my first time. Like I have a single tier that allows me to kind of set the temperature points and circulate through them. But it was just it was my first time kind of like walking through that, and so I think we got close to the temperature steps, but
I think you did very well.
Yeah, if I were to do it again, I think I'd prepare a little bit differently. Like, even the funny thing about it is like just what I laughed at with Brian is just trying to use my tap water, which I live out in the country. I have a wonderful well that has just amazing water.
Oh, nice.
And I don't have anything between me and the well. We've tested it. It's great for brewing, and so that's another thing I like. But my tap water comes out at higher than 125. So I was already like, just my base water was over our first step edition, so we had to kind of cool it down a little bit.
Yeah,
but
and I mean, I've done that. I've mashed in at 135, and like that protein rest, I don't think affects your efficiency as much as maybe some of the less measurable items like head retention, body. I know pH is pretty important, and I mean that's one I struggle with. And I'm lucky in Troy, but our water is pretty good. So my best results, I just use my straight tap water, throw in a caffeine tablet, knock out the chlorine, and I'm usually pretty damn close to where I want to be pH wise. Your target's like about 5.2. I'm usually about maybe 5.4, 5.5.
Yeah. My pH water or my pH comes in right around there. Ooh, somebody got a goal or
your pH.
Congratulations. But no, I mean the beer. It came out. It was a long brew day. It was an interesting brew day. I've never injected chemicals or the enzymes down into the kettle. That was kind of fun. And we had a friend of ours with us, Brandon. So we kind of all like ceremoniously got around and injected at the same time. It was fun. And the beer came out.
I love that picture. The three hands and the three syringes. Right.
But yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, and speaking of Brandon, he brought up a question here in chat. He would like to know if brew in a bag is popular with gluten-free. Can't even say it. Gluten-free brewing. He says he can see the advantages for milling purposes, if nothing else. But yeah, just I guess on that aspect, is brew in a bag popular with gluten-free?
Oh, very. One of the challenges with the gluten-free grains, they're a lot smaller, as you can see, than your usual brewing grains. And so, like, I run with my Anvil system. I run a screen. It's like a 500 micron screen. Or the easy option is you just get a brew bag, because those are already 1,000 to 500 micron as is. And it makes it a lot easier, so you're just not going to get as much like grain particles making it through your false bottom.
I mean, I would say like
did you guys use a brew bag, or did you?
No, I just used the false bottom. That's what I was going to say is, like, when I did the clean out, when I mashed or cleaned my mash tun, I could see a lot of the holes in my mash tun were like the same diameter as a millet seed. Like, and some did get through, and that's fine. Like I said, or Brian said, we recirculate and a lot of that, kind of, I still captured it. But these grains are a lot smaller than what we would traditionally use, for sure.
Right, and that's part of the problem with milling is trying to get it milled correctly. Most of your commercial mills are designed for gluten grains, and they don't have a tight enough gap, or like the little knurls and stuff on the rollers are actually sort of big enough where the grain falls in between them and just doesn't get crushed. Yeah, so people are using like the monster mill. They're running it through there, and they're like, half of my millet's not even crushed.
Wow.
So they'll have to run it through a couple of times, or Gluten-Free Homebrewing sells a customized mill that, like, they had the rollers machined and some other, I guess, adjustments or whatever machined in, so that you can get the gaps that you need. I'm just using a Corona mill, and I just do it kind of by I run a couple ounces through, and I grab it in my hand, I look at it, and I'm like, gotta loosen it up and turn it in half. Yep, that looks about right. There you go.
Right on.
And shout out to Brandon again, because thank you for I forgot to call him out that he was there brewing this beer with us. So thanks, Brandon. Appreciate you. We have him on the show occasionally.
It's like a true brewing guest. He showed up for the cool stuff and then ditched out before we had to clean. But I did that yesterday to him, so it's all good.
I wasn't even there, so I can't really complain. I was up north that weekend.
Do you, Brian? Do you want to I don't know if it's like a thing you want to do, but you want to talk us through trying some of this grain, maybe? I think we all have samples. I split it out between all of us.
Sure. Yeah. So let's see. There's one. It's kind of like the whole lot are red, and it's little spheres.
The sorghum.
It was marked sorghum. Yeah, the red sorghum.
Yeah.
That's what I've been using as a base grain. It's kind of an experimental malt right now for us. It's really only available to me through Bards, which is they're one of the early producers, and I just happen to be friends with a family that owns the company, and so I'm able to buy their surplus sorghum malt, and
Okay.
it's like their proprietary ingredient that makes their beer the way their beer is versus Redbridge. And if you compare that to the one that is the pale millet, you can see like the difference in grain size.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely on this sorghum, is it roasted, malted like regular barley would be?
It basically it's just a pale malt. So it's very, very lightly roasted, if any. Sometimes like if I do a beer that's got a lot of that sorghum in it, at first it looks really red, but that redness just dropped out, and that's just from the hulls.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'll transfer it to my fermenter, and it looks like it's going to be red as hell, and then by the time I'm serving it, it's brilliant yellow.
I was surprised that it's
there's
the
advantages.
starch content. Like it tastes very starchy.
What's
I can
that?
see why that's. I was just saying I was surprised like it tastes very starchy, and you can see where that would be a good base malt. It's got a lot of that kind of same starch sugar in it.
It's clean,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I just tasted that, and then I had some of the pale millet too. And the pale millet, it has that same, cleanliness. It's easier to chew, but it almost has a little bit of like a salt thing to it too. Like on my lips, I almost just taste a little bit of salt or something.
Yeah.
Which is like interesting.
The red sorghum's definitely sweeter, starchier. It's got more depth, or the millet, the millet, the regular millet, because we've already kind of tasted the roasted millet, but the regular millet just does kind of taste bland and there's not much to it. But so then we did Brian and I, when he was over earlier, I tasted this roasted millet, the C10 millet. So that's what I would assume is the equivalent here is they're going for like a caramel 10 or a cara 10 to get some of that color, that roastiness.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a schedule calls it a caramel 10 malt. I'll usually use like 1 to 2 pounds. Like I think the Hydra used 1 pound of it in there, just to give a little bit of a sort of a maltiness to it. That you can't quite get off of a pale malt, especially in gluten-free. So one thing that's interesting with gluten-free is I actually did a beer that was 100% the C10, and I massively overshot my original gravity on it by like 20 points. So instead of like 5%, I ended up with like a 6.5% beer.
It's just amazing.
And
how much
I mean, that's just because we use all these enzymes. It's like,
right.
I can make something that's, out of pretty much anything.
Right. Were you saying something, Jordan?
Yeah, I was gonna say there's a surprising difference between the C10 millet and the regular. Like the regular millet, almost kind of sandy, but the C10, like honestly, I actually kind of just like it. I might snack on that the rest of the show.
It is a good snack. I totally am
it's good.
100% with you.
It's got an amazing malt flavor. It starts to get some of that sweetness. We just talked about this last week in the club, where you start getting adding those roasting notes up, to get some of those like stone fruit or raisin characteristics, and you can see just going into the C10 range of this, you already start picking up on some of that. Now, I think Brian, do they go higher than this?
I'm sorry.
Are they going higher with this? Or I mean, can you get like a C?
Oh yeah.
40 or 60. I imagine these things burn out quick, but
they go all the way up into the hundreds.
Really?
Like that, the rice you have there, it's like that's about 400. I think the highest millet I can think of offhand is it's like 350. Like I mean, I've got some chocolate millet that's fucking
They're so
phenomenal.
small though. Like, is there anything left?
Oh, I know.
Yeah. I would have figured.
Millet can be a pain in the ass, and because it's so small. Like with my Corona mill, that's where I guess the shaft is. I actually get like unmilled millet that comes out the backside, right? Where the handle where the drill is.
Oh no!
And like I don't do that with sorghum because it's a little bit bigger. That's one thing I'm experimenting with is roasting the sorghum with a coffee bean roaster to try to make like a dark roast and a chocolate
Interesting.
roast with that.
Okay.
This may be something that you do or don't know. I was tasting the C10 millet, and like Jason said, it did have a little bit of sweetness to it. But from my limited knowledge of like malting and stuff like that, the reason that like the caramel malts have some sweetness is because they raise the heat of those malts to activate those enzymes that then converts the starches into sugars within the malt. But this millet doesn't it doesn't have that starches, right? Like, do you know where that sweetness is coming from? Is it all in my head? Or the enzymes?
It's so there are endogenous enzymes in millet. It's just like a much lesser degree than it is in barley.
Okay.
So that's part of what goes into play, and then you've got a lot of the Maillard reaction going on just to get those caramelize the sugars they're able to produce. I know that like from my conversations with Gadget, like you can't take the process you use for barley and just like throw millet, and do the exact same thing. There's differences, and they're working on it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So there's definite similarities, but there's definitely some differences in the details. I often say, like, with the gluten-free brewing, where you might be able to do beer with, say, like a true smash. I've done smash beer, but you're going to probably get better results using a couple of different grains to get,
Sure.
sort of that full profile of, one's great as a base, and then you want to bring some buckwheat or something in to get body and head, and, like separate proteins. Another thing I use is lentils. The Hydra I use a pound of lentils
Oh, that's interesting.
to help with body and head retention. And it's the lentils are like essentially nothing for sugar.
Sure.
It's
Say, aren't lentils considered a bean?
Sort of an adjunct to get head.
Yeah, that is part of that.
Aren't they a legume?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think all beans fit into that. But that's weird. I'd be worried about getting like some vegetal flavors off of them. But we drank Hydra, and I didn't taste that at all. So,
yeah,
I think
I've never gotten any weird flavors off of the lentils.
I think so. We're tasting. I just ate some of the pale oat.
I just did too. It's super husky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I can swallow that. I don't think I can digest.
But
all that.
It's just a super interesting flavor.
It tasted good.
Grassy and green, and that's really cool.
That was good.
I'm still trying to chew. I took a big handful of stuff.
I can't imagine what that was like. I just took like a little pinch.
I refuse to be defeated by the husks, so pardon me while I...
When he starts joking out, we'll just take him off stream. So, all right, I think we have to try this. So I'm actually, we all are big on the black beers. We're big brewers in black beers, and I'm really curious about this. This is the blackest malt that you sent us. Not to try to show this is
Okay. Yeah.
black rice, right?
Oh,
Or
we're doing the rice.
roasted
Okay.
rice.
You say it was like a
It's the rice
jasmine, like a
malt.
roasted jasmine or something?
It's a.
Mine came in a
If I
sample
remember right,
collection
it's
tube.
jasmine rice that it's grown in California. After malting they're like the only outfit that does rice malt, and I mean Jim has got that down to a science.
It's totally. I mean, it's just like chewing
Some
like a
people
carafa
report.
3.
Yep.
I'm sorry. Some people report what?
That's kind of like our version of black patent.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's got the charcoal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, still got kind of that malt bitter, that burnt bitter that you get off of like a black patent
Right.
But because it doesn't have a hull, I don't think you're getting as much. That's why I was kind of comparing it to a carafa 3, which is a dehusked, kind of version of black patent where they've removed the husk, and so it's a debittered. You get really more of that roast than you do of the burnt.
Yeah. Those have the hulls on them.
It doesn't. Well, I mean, if they do, it's a much more delicate hull than the barley hull.
oats.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because there's nothing there. It just disappears.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah,
tastes
and that
like.
one
I guess what I'm saying
especially.
is,
Those
go ahead.
it was like the rice hulls on like the darker rices. They don't really contribute a lot of flavor supposedly, but they do help color. I mean, too much of them, and you're going to start getting some astringency, of course. But
Yeah.
like, there's one of the brewers I was talking to actually uses basically hulls off of some of the roasted rices just to help add color to beer.
Oh, that's super interesting. There's so many kind of like little tricks,
little differences and tricks that come into play once you figure out how to use enzymes.
I just cracked open one of the Groundbreaker beers, Mellow Meridian. So I noticed
almost
that
a
you said
Nipa
a lot
style.
Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
If you like dark beers,
say,
Groundbreaker Dark will be interesting to you.
And I was gonna, say too. I forgot to mention this on the beginning of the show too. I promise that like Brian and I aren't, and Jason, whatever, we're not trying to talk over to each other. There's like a half-second lag between us right now. So
right. Didn't you say you were going to mention that at the beginning of the show?
I know, I totally did. I absolutely did an hour ago. So here we are. This is the official beginning of the show now.
Yeah.
But
right, 59 minutes in.
Yeah. I don't remember what I was going to say about it, other than I was opening it.
I'm about to open IPA number 5. So one of the things, we got a sample of these, so we don't all have the same one, so we get to try different ones. Did you say there was a black one, Brian, that you sent over?
Yeah, I've got one.
I think he was talking about the malt.
Oh, okay.
Right before we tried that. Yeah. And then the only malt I don't think we really didn't try was the pale buckwheat, which looks like chocolate chips.
Yeah, was it? I mean, I've got
a
dark ale.
Buckwheat.
Oh, Jordan does have a dark one.
Right. Oh, Jordan did get a dark beer. Okay.
I'll crack it next.
So Brian, what
Oh
is
yeah,
the buckwheat for
the brown
mostly?
bitter dark.
Hmm.
I'm sorry, what's that?
What is the what do you use the buckwheat for mostly?
Mostly for I use like 1 to 2 pounds in a each 5 gallon batch. Mostly for head retention. Um, it does have kind of like there's like a nutty character to it.
Yeah, I got that.
So it's one of those things where it kind of helps round out your entire flavor profile. But one of the main purposes is body and head retention.
It was definitely pretty husky. Like, it was definitely
Yeah.
It's
hard to chew.
it's a little deceiving because it's really dark looking.
It looks like chocolate
But
flakes.
yeah, but the SRM's only listed as what 3.8 on this, so it doesn't really add too much color to the beer.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
No, that
Once
hull
you break
doesn't.
that husk off of it, it's like
Huh.
Yeah. So I can tell you this, like for the last 25 years of my life, I've been sleeping on buckwheat husk pillows. So I know that they last forever and they won't break down.
I didn't even know that was a thing. What?
Oh my God. It's the most amazing thing in the world, dude. When I was like 18 years old, I stayed up late one night and watched this infomercial for Sobakawa pillows, and I bought 2 of them, and I've been sleeping on them ever since.
Welcome to the new show, Michigan Sleeps.
now we can use the
Yeah.
pillows and we can make beer out of them.
Yeah.
You're using
Well,
that totally the wrong way, man.
That's what was hard for me when I got this. I was like, this isn't brewing material. This is sleeping material. This is what I put my head on. You know?
That's amazing. I learned today. All right. Now I'm gonna look for a new pillow. I'm just about due too.
I just buy buckwheat husks in bulk now. Then I kind of refill, make my own pillow out of it. It is the best pillow ever. So that's what we do here. We screw the main topic. Google that shit. Buckwheat husk
What was
pillow,
the
they're
main
amazing.
topic again? Huh? What?
Yeah. Yeah. So here's the dark. So yeah, I mean it's got some.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it's got some nice and deep browns in there. It looks good.
I just want to see what you make of the style for that one.
All right, Jordan reviews dark beer.
Right. Great. On the spot. Interesting.
All right, that's the review.
Yeah,
you heard it here first.
Yep. That's one word. No, it's good. It actually it's hard to see it in the camera. Like maybe if I shine my light behind it, but putting it up
looks
in front
red.
of my, it is. It's very red. It's very clear.
It's beautiful.
It tastes darker than it looks, which is it kind of messing with my head because it does. It kind of has like there's a lot of roasty characters to it. It's pretty clean, lightweight in the body. But there's some like citrusy, like there's almost like a citrusy character to it. I don't know. I don't know where I would put this in terms of style. I mean, I don't know. It's good. I enjoy it.
Yeah, I was gonna say that for anybody watching the show later on, make sure to check out the comments for the Sobakawa traditional buckwheat pillow. We're now an official sponsor.
And then Jordan, thank you for that
Put a
insightful
link.
review.
Yeah.
You can definitely go judge beer for NHC next year.
Oh, perfect. You guys need judges? Just one word. That's all I need, right?
One word.
that was NHC this year. Yeah, 100%. You got it.
So
before
So
Jordan
I pegged the
opened
that dark as being like an English mild.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Well, yeah, that would kind of explain the color then. Yeah, that'd be on point.
Or I guess a dark English mild. because it's and especially as it warms up, you're like a lot of fruity notes, and then warms up a little bit more, you get like some like really intense coffee notes.
Yeah, I think I was alluding to that. Like it tasted citrusy, but like it does have quite a bit of a good roasty character to it as well. I don't know. I've never really tried. Like this is my first time really getting into gluten-free beer. As I think same with Jason and our Brian.
Right.
Like I don't know.
You have no reason to. So
Yeah. I mean, I'm thoroughly impressed so far. Like, it's all drinkable. It's very good.
I have a friend.
well, good. That's part of my goal is I want to help dispel the rumors that gluten-free beer is shit. Because honestly, it can be pretty damn good, and I swear that it's possible to make a gluten-free beer that's as good as any other beer that's out there. And some of them you got to really work at certain get certain flavor notes in there. But I mean, if I can make like the higher the Ghost in the Fog, and you guys said it didn't taste like crap.
I drank the whole thing and didn't really realize it. It's not like I had to focus on it. That's the I've mentioned this on the show before too, but like that's the end goal for me. Like for a beer, like if I can just drink it and talk, and I'm drinking and talking, and then my glass is empty at some point in time. I don't know. It's a good beer to me.
That's
if I'm not focused on it, yeah.
That's how it was with the 2 bottles you brought me, Brian. I mean, they're both gone. So
yeah,
it's. I didn't even realize I had kind of went through. I was on my second one until my wife texted me because she wanted to try them all, and she's like, "Hey, I want to try those beers." I'm like, okay, I'm on my second bottle. Come on, come take a sample.
Now I moved on to this because I've got the keg down in my basement of the gluten-free root. So I moved on to Groundbreaker Brewing. Where are they out of? I don't see it on the can.
Oregon, right?
Is it?
Yeah,
Portland, Oregon.
Okay.
The interesting thing they use chestnuts in a lot of their beers.
I was just looking at that.
I was actually just about to ask you that. I was like, so I'm reading the can here. It's like sorghum, rice malt, grouse buckwheat, and then chestnuts. I'm like, so what's up with chestnuts? Are they actually getting starch and conversion off of those, or?
So, Groundbreaker was one of the first. I mean, they were the first gluten-free, in the U.S. And somehow they got into using chestnuts. They get sugars out of them, and they get like some flavor and some I think like some body head. I'm not sure exactly. I've never played with chestnuts.
Never used them?
Okay. To make beer. No, I've never done anything with chestnuts. I think they could be used to find them like chuck them at each other. That's about it. But I mean, their beers are pretty damn good. It's like if you've got a recipe, a methodology that works for you, fucking stick with it.
Right. Yep. I also noticed on this dark ale, they use tapioca as well. I'm looking at Jason went through his ingredients. Mine is sorghum, chestnuts, as we just talked about, organic lentils, Belgian style candy syrup, brown rice syrup, roasted rice malt, cane sugar, organic tapioca, maltodextrin, and hops. Not bad.
Yeah. Well, that's another point I should make is if anyone's going out to make a gluten-free beer, maltodextrin is something that be to increase body and head. They need to be very careful because depending where you're buying it, that maltodextrin could be complete. Like I know at Celiac Straits, whatever brand it is, multiple extra thing. Last time I was there, it says on there, from wheat. So that's one of those you have to watch type of ingredients. It can be from corn or tapioca or wheat. So obviously, the one that's made from wheat is not going into any beer I could drink. That would just make it no longer gluten-free.
Right on. So let's dive into the shop, right? So you started your own homebrew shop focused on gluten-free brewing. How long have you been?
Yeah.
How long have you been doing that?
Yes. I started up in October. So October, what was that, 2020?
Wow. Okay.
And I mean, this was completely, no huge investments. It's all funded with cash out of my own pocket, and it's just very slowly growing. I'm trying to source, unique gluten-free malts that aren't available elsewhere right now, to try and give gluten-free brewers some more options, because there's more out there than what's been available so far through gluten-free home brewing. I mean, his store is awesome, and he's got a lot of recipes, and they're all great. And he stocks from Eckert, which is they make the rice malt, and Grouse, which makes millet and buckwheat. There's nothing wrong with any of their products. I'm like, I want to see what else is out there and kind of expand our scope. See if we can add, add some color to our palette. And I've got the sorghum, I've got the oat malt. Tomorrow going down, I'm going to be picking up some 45 oat, which I'm like super excited to play. Anytime I get something that's, the more roast on it, the better. And then, I'm working with Gadget Daily malts out of Oregon, and they've got the C10 that I sent you. They've got a Dexter buckwheat, which no one else has right now, and that seems to contribute, positively to home retention. And that's kind of like my whole thing is I want to take what's been done so far and try to expand upon it. I'm working with Hold on. It's Spanish for too late. There's a brewery in Colorado, and they do all chicha. And so I'm gonna put out like a chicha recipe kit.
What was that last word?
You might know it as
chicha.
the South American beer.
Yeah.
Yeah, the chicha and the Pepsi, it's all corn malt.
But you have to chew and spit
traditionally the ladies sit around and they chew it up and they spit it out, but
yeah,
I'm not doing that. No one wants it, especially these days.
Oh.
We'll stick, lab grown enzymes in the mill.
So you basically started this because you got bored during COVID, I take it then?
Kind of. And I just got, to that point where I'm like, I want to brew more than what's available. Look, I found lost malt, and it's like, there's stuff available here. I started talking with bards, and they're like, hey, do you want to play with our malt? And I'm like, oh, fuck yeah. So, I ended up with like, 1,000 pounds of malt. And I'm like, well, That's a little more than I can use at once, so I might as well start something up with this, And like I said, just adding to the conversation and taking my own. I think my brewing philosophy and like my palate's a little bit different because I've essentially only known being gluten free. So I'm just taking like
Mhm.
what tastes good instead of oh, you know it doesn't taste exactly like Two Hearted or exactly like Bud Light. Like, who gives a shit? If it's good beer, it's good
It's,
beer.
it's it's different and better than cider or mead or yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. You gotta get your hops somehow. Damn it. So we threw the link to your store up. Do you have a physical location or are you all online?
All online.
All online? Perfect.
Are you trying to focus on just like the
People
Michigan
do,
area, or are you trying to
I
do like national or?
so I ship nationally. People can. There's a local pickup option. So people can pick up locally and um like I could drop their order off over at Cadillac Straits or whatever. Usually Cadillac Straits is where I drop off
Mhm.
over there, and those guys are so awesome. They've helped me out a lot. Kind of mentored me through certain learning curves, and they let me drop orders off to that so someone can swing in and pick up and hopefully buy some stuff from them.
That's awesome. Sorry, didn't mean to like delay. I just wasn't sure if you were. Just didn't want to cut you off or anything like that.
Right.
No, it's really awesome to hear. I'm glad that we have probably one of the. I can't imagine there's like a ton of homebrew, gluten-free homebrew shops in the U.S. right now. You Google it and
Yeah,
your
there's
site
two.
comes up, and yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I think there's
So that
three in the entire world, to my knowledge.
okay.
That's awesome. I mean, it's
And
cool that
imagine you kind of
you're filling this gap then.
yeah.
Because seeing it happening, more and more people are looking for this, and yeah, so that's really neat that you're doing it.
Yeah,
Um,
I just it started off as a totally personal adventure, and then it's just like just kind of kept growing on its own. It's like, oh shit, I guess I might as well take the next step.
I checked out that zero tolerance, gluten-free homebrew group. I linked that earlier, and
Mm-hmm.
they have 1.4 thousand members. So it's certainly no
Yep.
small, market. It's not like it's just like a couple people here and there.
Right.
So that's awesome. Besides your
Yeah.
website, like, are you on like Twitter or Instagram or anything like that?
Oh, yeah. So I'm on Instagram. Both is gluten-free brew supply and gluten-free beer brand. I'm on
Okay.
Facebook is gluten-free, brewer supply, gluten-free beer brand, and then I have a group that is gluten-free beer, great taste, diarrhea. That's more focused on the commercial beers and just people talking about them. And there's GF Beer Trader, which is more focused on people trading the beers. Shipping beer would be illegal though, so
Yeah,
you have to work out
Yeast
your
samples.
transportation things
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do not encourage you to break the law.
We just have one quick question pop in, from a keeper here in town. Do you specifically like have any clone kits available, like a gluten-free version of like a Two Hearted or any of the other popular brands out there?
Not yet. I mean, people have asked me about that, and my thought is it would be exceedingly difficult to truly clone. Well, one, I can't clone something I can't taste.
Good point.
I mean, you could take a base
Good
gluten-free, grain bill and throws, the two-hearted clone hop bill at it and probably come in pretty close. Hop utilization seems to be a bit different, especially if you're using sorghum syrup, because it in itself has certain bitterness. I think the general advice is take like 5 to 10 IBU off of your first edition. I mean, myself, I would never try to make a clone only because I feel like it's going to be different because it's are using different ingredients.
Yep.
Could make something where, okay, you like two-hearted when you were able to drink barley beers, but you're gluten-free. Hey, you know what? Let's make you a beer with Centennial hops that you're going to love. It may not be exactly the same, but you're going to still fucking love it. And I mean, Southern Brewer might be able to pull it off if they actually know what two-hearted is, and I don't.
He's clarifying now. Do you have anything like any 5-gallon kits of your own design that you sell on your store?
Yeah, the Ghost in the Fog kit. That's the current one I have out. Before I put a kit up, I want to make sure it's pretty dialed in.
Yeah, sure.
I'm gonna work on
We were
the
test beta testers, or
yeah. You got 5, initial release kits of that. Sounds like you guys liked it pretty well.
Do you have any like homebrew
What do you
clubs
think
over
on
there in
Ghost in
the
the Fog?
Troy area? Did you say what do we think of Ghost in the Fog?
Yeah, I'm probably KDB.
Sorry. there was more of a delay. There was a question, not an answer. To go back to Ghost of Fog. So you had mentioned the IBU thing, and I think that it's a combination of maybe it just being a little green, and the IBU thing. It was a little bitter, but other than that, like again, that was the second beer that I had, and just drank down while we talked. So no complaints about it. It just being like a good, easy drinking outdoor beer. Like it's something I would just like sip on while being outside, like doing shit. So it was great.
Right.
In fact, when I think of compared to this Mellow Meridian, I mean, there's obviously a difference in the overall flavor, but in general, like I feel like they're like comparable beers. So
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I give it a thumbs up to the recipe, like 100%. Like it's if I were to buy a gluten-free beer from this brewery and expect a particular flavor, it would have been your recipe. So yeah, it was excellent. And it's obviously because Jason and I are just like pro expert homebrewers too, but
You sure it wasn't Brandon's help? Because
I forgot about Brandon. I'm sorry, Brandon. Definitely Brandon's contribution to the entire day.
All about Brandon. Right on.
Yeah,
we've been going for a while. So real quickly, what do we have next week, Brian?
We might have a guest. It might be a shit show. So we'll figure it out.
Shit show is the new official term for when we're just going to get on and bullshit about something, which may or may not actually turn out to be a shit show.
There's been nights we've gone through like 6 cans or bottles plus. So
seltzer 3.0 or whatever, and let's just get hammered on the white stuff. Then we're working on finalizing a guest for next week. The week after that will actually be our off week. That'll be August 2nd. I'm gonna head out to California, so we're not gonna do a show that week. And then we're still working on our schedule for August. Later in the month in August, we expect to have some live surprise shows on off nights from Homebrew Fest. So Homebrew Fest is, what is it? I can't remember this ever.
It's the 19th, 20th, and 21st officially.
Yep.
Yeah. So there may just be some random streams where one of us will just be drunk with a camera at Homebrew Fest, trying not to piss people off. So
for anyone local to the Kalamazoo, if you're over near there, not that you'd be able to, unfortunately drink many of the beers, but by all means, and stop out and meet some cool people, Brian. It's a good time out there. We call it like a homebrew Christmas. So
it is
beer Christmas.
There's cider mead.
There is cider.
There will be.
Yeah.
In fact, there will be a whole tent from the Michigan Mead Coalition here, completely dedicated to meads, which is the first time we've had that aside from the mead mamas in years past.
I was going to say, do not discount the mead mamas. I saw their post the other day. They're all already making some new cool mead for this fest. So we don't want to piss them off at all.
Those
mead
slushies
are amazing.
That apparently weren't alcoholic when we first started drinking on them.
Shit happens.
They're so good.
Have you had Michigan Mead Coalition? Have you had Bill's? Shit. I always want to call it Captain Picard. What did Captain Picard drink? Earl Grey mead.
Oh.
Yeah,
no, I don't know if it doesn't stand out specifically. There's a good chance. I mean, we've drank a lot of Bill's mead. He in the past he's always done the mead kind of a separate little mead table at Beer Fest.
His wife does the kombucha cart.
Yeah, and I know he's had like 20, or more meads up there. Him and other people in KGB. So it's totally possible, but nothing stands out right now for the Earl Grey or a bergamot mead.
That Earl Grey mead, I love it.
Right, but no, we're excited to see him.
I've had from him.
He's the president of the Michigan Mead Coalition, so they're actually going to have a separate tent dedicated to that. The Mead Mamas will be there with their mead tent, and then of course Keepers will have a couple of meads and a couple of ciders, and other clubs around the festival will have meads and ciders available too. But yeah, man, you should reach out to them and set up a gluten-free table.
Right.
Throw some jockey boxes up.
Good. Maybe I will.
Yeah, there's been a few guys who do stuff like that.
Yeah,
it's awesome. Yep.
Yeah, I forget the name of it. There's one club in particular. It's like two guys in kilts and a wagon, and they just drag a couple of kegs around the festival with their wagon.
Yep.
It's amazing. So,
All right.
It is. It's an amazing time. So yeah, we'll be back next week with something. Thanks again for hanging out with us, Brian. Check him out on gfbsupply.com and Zero Tolerance on Facebook, and scroll up in the comments, and all that stuff's up there. So
I'll try to make another post that just like has all the links that were in chat that we linked tonight, kind of all in one place.
Cool.
So people can just kind of
go buy a buckwheat pillow.
And go buy a buckwheat pillow.
Yeah,
I will include that link too.
That's amazing. All right. So this is typical. They can hear us do this. We're not actually off the air yet. Everybody wave goodbye.
Yeah.
Bye.
All right, we're clear.
No, we're not. We're still live.